welcome back to the Explainer. So whether you're just starting out with SAP BASIS or you've been around the block a few times, there's really one critical skill that's going to absolutely transform your day-to-day work. And yeah, that's SQL. Now, hey, before you start panicking, let me clear the air right away. You do not need to be a full-blown database developer to master this stuff. Today, we're just going to focus on the foundational, beginner-friendly tools that are literally just designed to make your life easier. All right, let's dive right in.
So you might be wondering, why does a BASIS consultant even need SQL in the first place? Well, think of it as your highly practical everyday toolkit. Look, you can obviously do a lot through the SAP GUI. We all know that. But knowing SQL, that lets you peek under the hood, directly at the database level. It makes checking tables, verifying data, and deeply troubleshooting those annoying issues significantly faster. Imagine a user says they can't log in, or maybe you need to monitor system logs, or you're working directly with HANA or Oracle databases. Having just a handful of these commands in your back pocket gives you incredible visibility and control.
Here's our roadmap for today's toolkit. We'll kick things off with safe tools for reading data, then step into the danger zone of modifying data, level up by joining data, and finally wrap up with real-world applications.
All right, Section 1, Safe Tools. This is all about reading data.
Let's start with the absolute most basic but honestly most heavily utilized command you'll ever use to fetch data. The query is select asterisk from USR02. Or as most people say, select star from USR02. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's pretty much the foundation of everything we do when querying a database. Let's actually break down the anatomy of that query piece by piece, just so we understand exactly what this code is telling the database to do. First up, select. That simply means, hey, fetch some data. Next, that asterisk or star symbol stands for all columns. And finally, USR02 is the specific SAP table name we're targeting here. Now in this case, USR02 is a highly important table because it stores the SAP user logon data. Put it all together and it says, fetch all columns from the user logon table. Simple enough, right?
Now, this brilliantly illustrates how we actually refine queries out there in the real world. Because honestly, instead of the heavy load of pulling every single column from a massive table, we can streamline it. We write select bname, GLTGB from USR02. Bname stands for username, and GLTGB stands for user validity date. Just fetching exactly what we need saves massive amounts of time and system resources.
Okay, but suppose you don't want a giant list of all the users. You only want data for one specific person. Enter the where clause. We'd write select star from USR02 where bname equals, quote, SAP user, unquote. This isolates a single user's record. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer for troubleshooting. For instance, if you check the U flag field in this specific user's record, it instantly tells you if that user is locked out or unlocked. You don't even have to click through the SAP GUI. It's right there.
So grabbing the data you need is crucial, absolutely. But sometimes, you just need to know how much data is sitting in there. For that, we use the count statement. Select count, parenthesis, star, parenthesis, from USR02. This simply spits out the total number of users in the entire system. And this has immense value for BASIS consultants, especially when you're dealing with system migrations. You can run this exact query to count total records right before migration, and then just run it again after. Instantly, you verify that absolutely no records were lost in transit.
Now, what if you want your results neatly sorted instead of just a random jumble? We just add the order by clause. For example, select star from USR02 order by er.dsc. Here, we're sorting by er. Which is the creation date field, and we're using DESC or DESC for descending order. So what does that actually do? Well, it brings the very latest, most recently created users right to the absolute top of your list. If you're doing a quick audit to see who got added to the system today, this query is for sure your best friend.
And look, sometimes tables contain a ton of duplicate values, and you just want a clean list of unique entries without the noise. That is where the distinct keyword comes in handy. You would use select distinct MNDT from USR02. Now, MNDT is the field for the SAP client number. Because obviously many users can be in the exact same client, those client numbers are going to repeat thousands of times in the user table. By throwing in distinct, the database filters out all those duplicates on the fly, perfectly identifying just the unique SAP client numbers available in your system.
Moving on to Section 2, the danger zone, modifying data. The tools we just looked at were totally safe, read-only commands. The tools we're about to look at? Well, these can permanently alter your system, so proceed with caution.
First up in this danger zone is the update command. A classic example would be update employees set status equals quote active unquote, where EMPID equals 101. Unlike our friendly select statement, this one actively changes existing data. In this specific example, it's finding employee number 101 and directly changing their status to active.
Seriously, I want you to burn this golden rule into your memory right now. Read queries are safe. Write queries are risky. As a basis consultant, you have to be incredibly, absolutely careful here. Running an update or a delete directly in a production environment without explicit approval, that can permanently damage business data. No joke. In most standard projects, basis teams rely almost entirely on select queries for their analysis and leave the actual data modifying to automated system processes or heavily vetted, approved scripts.
And really, the most risky command of them all is delete. Running delete from USR02 where bname equals quote test user unquote does exactly what it sounds like. It wipes those records entirely. Gone. I am repeating this because direct deletes are heavily restricted in real SAP environments. Honestly, you should almost never run this in a production database manually. But, you still need to know exactly what the command looks like so you can understand scripts or read system logs effectively.
All right, let's take a breath. Section 3, level up. Joining data. This is a slightly more advanced concept, but it's incredibly powerful once it clicks.
Now we get to introduce the inner join. Okay, look, I know the syntax for this can sound a little intimidating at first glance. We have select usr02.bname, agrusers.agrname from usr02, inner join agrusers on usr02.bname equals agrusers.uname. You definitely do not need to master writing this from scratch immediately, but as the concept shows, what we're fundamentally doing here is smoothly combining data that lives in two completely different tables into one unified, easy-to-read result.
Let's actually deconstruct that scary-looking query into 3 simple logical steps. Step 1, the database goes and looks at our first table, USR02, which holds the basic user details. Step 2, it hops over to a second table, AGR_users, which holds the authorization details, meaning what that specific user is actually allowed to do in the system. And step 3, it seamlessly combines them together based on the one piece of data they both share, the username. By just understanding this underlying concept, you can easily see how SQL links related information across the entire SAP architecture. It's like a giant puzzle coming together.
Which brings us to Section 4, Real-World Applications. Let's look at the BASIS checklist.
So, where exactly are you going to use all this day to day? Well, you'll use these queries for rapid-fire tasks. Things like quickly checking for locked users when the help desk is totally overwhelmed, or verifying that background jobs actually wrote the correct data. You'll use it for actively monitoring the health of a HANA database, validating your migrations to ensure zero data loss, and doing those deep dive performance analyses when the whole system is mysteriously running slow. Really, I want you to feel empowered here. Knowing just these basics puts you far ahead of many beginners out there, especially as the industry continues to heavily adopt SAP HANA environments where knowing your way around SQL is absolutely invaluable.
And just like that, we've reached the end of this explainer. We've journeyed from basic reads all the way to joins, and we've covered exactly how to stay safe in the database without breaking anything. I really hope structuring it this way helped clarify these concepts for you. Now, I have a question for you. What complex SAP BASIS topic do you want us to simplify next? Drop your thoughts, keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.
Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon.